We have discussed about multiple interrupts in our last class, and in today's class we are discussing about a direct memory access. So regarding multiple interrupts itself, we were discussed. Before that, I got your feedback, what you have submitted to in the portal, whatever you are having in the ERP. It was good. I didn't see anything wrong in that. Still, if you want to improve something, you can even inform me personally or in the chat, or even in the class chat also, or even you can personally message me so that if something I can do for you, I can do it. Okay. So what we have discussed in the last class is regarding the multiple interrupts. So you may have a processor, and the processor will be sending different requests to the input output device. Multiple input output devices are connected to a single processor. That time the devices may together has raising an interrupt signal to the processor. So what is the way the processor is handling the issue, and we have discussed about 4 different cases in that, and we find out the solution for all the 4 cases. So there mainly we have discussed about daisy chain. So that was the strategy for handling the multiple interrupt. So there are 2 methods we were discussed. One is called a daisy chain, and second one is called, based on that I think I have given certain questions also. Okay, daisy chain, and second one is regarding the priority arbitration circuits. Priority based priority arbitration circuit. So these are the 2 things we were discussed. Now in today's class, this is very very important. As I mentioned earlier, like the addressing modes what we are having in the first module, in the same way direct memory access is a very very important topic. This is a sure question from the second module. Um, so if you didn't study whatever the other things I discussed, also fine. This is a sure question, and all of you should study. You don't have any option on this. Okay. So I will ask questions also in between. All of you please listen the class. So direct memory access, or it is also called as DMA. So what is this direct memory access or DMA controller? Till now we have discussed like you are having a processor, and processor is associated with the input or output device, and you are also having a memory unit. So these are the 3 components you are having. All these components are connected through a single bus or system bus. So I'm just writing the first letters of everything. So this is the processor you are having, the input output unit you are having, and this is the memory unit you are having. So if you are connected with a pen drive or CD in the system, so that is your input output device. So from there you want to copy a movie to the memory unit or into the system. So that time we were discussed about 2 schemes already. One is called polling scheme. So when I was mentioning about polling scheme, what was the strategy we were using is processor will be coming and checking like whether the device is ready for data transfer. So it will always check like whether this device is ready for transferring the data to the memory. That was the first scheme we have discussed. Then we said that the processor is wasting its time just for checking or waiting for the device to be ready. Second scheme what we told is interrupt. So what we were doing in the interrupt is whenever the device is ready, it is just informing the processor that it is ready for the data transfer. So that will be in the reverse way. It is informing the processor that the device is ready, so the data transfer is possible now. That was the second scheme. Now we'll be coming into the third scheme, that is called a direct memory access. So anyway, the processor involvement is there in the data transfer operation between the input device and memory unit. But these are 2 other functional units. The input unit as well as memory unit are 2 other functional units. What is the need of we should keep a processor also in this activity? This is the activity between 2 other functional units. So what is the thing we are doing is, instead of we are asking the processor to involve in this task of data, we are adding a control circuit, a separate control circuit into the system. We will be adding a separate control circuit and which will be connected to the bus. That control circuit is called a DMA controller. That control circuit is called as DMA, direct memory access controller. Okay, so DMA controller. So what is this DMA controller is doing? That will be activating the data transfer between the input device to the memory and from the memory to the output device, so that both the direction the data transfer will be controlled by a separate control circuit that is called a DMA control circuit, which is also connected to the input output device. We know that the input output device is connected through a bus through a interface circuit. We already studied in the previous class, like what is interface circuit, what is the need of interface circuit, what all are the components of the interface circuit. So even DMA controller will also be a part of the interface circuit. What is its use? Without the involvement of the processor, it will be activating the data transfer between the input device to the main memory, and similarly from the main memory to the output device. Okay, that is the third case. So we discussed about polling, interrupts, and this is the last case. Without the involvement of the processor, we are transferring the data transfer between the input device, input output unit to the memory, and that will be happening with the help of a separate controller circuit, and it is called as DMA controller. I will read the statement. A special control unit may be provided to transfer a block of data directly between the I/O device and the main memory without the intervention of the processor. So that are the points. Without the intervention of the processor, the data transfer between I/O and memory will be happening. I will ask questions in between. Please listen to the class. So who will be controlling the actions or data transfer between the I/O device and memory? That will be through a control circuit I told, and that control circuit is called as I/O controller, which will be a part of the I/O device interface. So along with the device, we will be having its own corresponding interface circuit. So the DMA controller will also be a part of that interface circuit. So what all are the works the DMA controller should do? That is the next point is mentioning. So the next point is mentioning like what all are the actions or what all are the works the processor was doing. That all works who should do now? The DMA controller should do. That was the next point is telling. The DMA controller performs the function that would be normally carried out by the processor. So what all are the works the processor was doing in the data transfer between I/O device and main memory? Those all works will be performed by the DMA controller. Now, next is about the process I am just trying to tell. This is the core of that explanation. Please listen all of you. This is the this is the system bus. The same diagram I am drawing. You are having an input output device. Input output device. And then you will be having a main memory. And here it is connected with a processor circuit. And we know that we will be having a DMA controller. I'm just writing DMA controller, DCA I am writing, DMA controller. Okay, so now the process I am just telling you. First itself, processor will inform the DMA controller that you should initiate the data transfer between, first only once the processor is involving in this work. What is the involvement of the processor? Processor will be just informing the DMA controller that you should initiate a data transfer between the input device and the main memory. So processor will just tell to the DMA controller that you can start the data transfer between these two functional units. Then what all are the data processor will give to the DMA controller? While informing the DMA controller, what all are the data the processor will be transferring to the DMA controller? 3 data it will be transferring to the DMA controller. Those data are the starting address, the number of words, and the direction of transfer. So these are the three things the processor will be giving to the DMA controller. What is meant by this starting address? Starting address means, for example, from the memory to the output device if the data transfer. For example, you are writing something to the pen drive. So the data is already present in the main memory and you are writing it into the pen drive. So during that time, the data transfer is happening from the main memory to your output device. Output device is the pen drive. So in that point of time, so what will be happening is, you should mention like what, from which address onwards the data should transfer. So that will be the starting address. For example, you want to transfer from 2000 to 2020, whatever be the value was present in the memory location should transfer into your pen drive. So that time the starting address is mentioning like from which address onwards you should start take the data. And then instead of 2020, that means how many data I should access or how many memory location I should access, that will be mentioning as the second parameter. That means the number of words in the block. And the third one is mentioning like it is just a control signal. That control signal is specifying what is the operation it should perform, whether the data will be transferring from the main memory to output device or from the input device to the main memory. The arrow what I have drawn over here is in the bidirectional arrow. So it will data transfer is possible from input device to memory also, similarly from memory to output device also. So there will be a control signal. That control signal will also be provided by the processor to the DMA controller, which is indicating that from where to where the data transfer should happen. Those are the three information the data processor will be transferring to the DMA controller. Once DMA controller receives these three values, DMA controller will have three different registers that will be storing these values. What are the three values? Starting and how many number of words or how many number of bytes should transfer, and in which direction it should transfer. So those three information will be storing in the registers present inside the DMA controller, and then the DMA controller will do the operation. Once the operation has finished, what DMA controller should do is, it will inform the processor that, okay, whatever the work you have assigned to me, I have finished. That information will be transferring back to the processor by raising an interrupt signal. So the one interrupt signal will be provided by the DMA controller to the processor and indicating that it has finished its work. This is the complete working of a DMA controller. So again, the processor involvement is here only in the beginning. It is just with that process of transferring these three details to the DMA controller, and that process is called initiate the DMA transfer. So processor is involved only in the initiation of the DMA transfer by transferring three values to the DMA controller. What are the three values? Starting address, how many number of bytes should transfer, and what direction it should transfer. So once the data transfer complete, the DMA controller will send an interrupt signal to the processor indicating that it has finished the complete data transfer assigned to it. This is the complete working. Simple, but only thing, if you listen the class, I think you can write it without even study also. So this is the basic diagram, the block diagram, a simple diagram. That was for your understanding. I have written and drawn this diagram, but this is little more specific diagram. You can see the processor, main memory, and the other side is completely the input output devices, keyboard, printer, you can see. And this DMA controller, the first DMA controller has connected with a high speed internet network, and the second DMA controller is connected with a 2-disk circuit. So here you can see it is for the 2 disk circuits also, you will be having a single DMA controller or disk controller, and that disk controller can transfer data simultaneously, but because it is provided with 2 different channels. So one channel is this way, it will be communicating to the from one disk to the main memory, it can transfer the data. And similarly, from the other disk to the main memory also, it can transfer the data. So simultaneously that data transfer is possible because of this DMA controller. I will just read. First DMA controller was connected to a high-speed network, and the second DMA controller, the disk controller, which controls two disks, also has the DMA capability. Both the disk is having a DMA capability, so it is also providing two different DMA channels. That's what I was trying to tell. This is two different channels as provided. So at the same time, simultaneously, it can transfer the data from both the disk to the main memory, or maybe one data transfer from the this disk to the main memory, and the second one will be from the main memory to the second disk. Because of it has two different DMA channels, that data transfer is also possible. Okay, the diagram you can just remember. It's not mandatory like this printer, keyboard and all should be there, but this part is mandatory. At least this DMA controller and two disk things as processor and main memory is mandatory. Next is I will give this link. You see that. I will paste it in the chat box. Either you see like that. Either you watch separately or I'm playing it. Maybe it won't be that clear when I am playing it. So please, you can look into it. That will give you a clear idea about what this DMA controller is doing.
Have you ever thought how the data transfer works? How does your data from computer gets transferred to your peripheral device? How does the data from computer gets passed to a pen drive? Let's have a look. So basically, DMA takes care of the entire data transfer operation. What does DMA stand for? DMA means direct memory access. How does it perform the data transfer operation, you would wonder? In simple terms, DMA is an operation in which data is copied from one resource to another resource in a computer without the involvement of CPU. For example, the data from your computer memory to your external pen drive. You would ask why without the involvement of CPU? Because CPU does the entire job. So why without the involvement of CPU? It is just to speed up the memory operations. That's what it means. Direct memory access. Let us say we have a CPU, input-output devices, and the memory. Now whenever we have to access memory, the input-output device goes to CPU, and from CPU it goes to memory. So, as you can see, we need two cycles here. Since we need two cycles to perform this operation, the operation becomes complex and time consuming. Now let us say there is a direct connection from memory or from input output to memory. If this happens, the entire process can be completed in one cycle. To provide this functionality, DMA was introduced. Here comes the rule of DMA. This connection between input-output to memory is provided by DMA controller, also known as DMAC. That's basically the short form of it. So this DMAC is the main chip that controls the entire DMA process. Let's see the working of this now. Okay, so first there is a CPU. Second, we have DMA controller, disk controller, and last we have the memory. As you can see, there are 4 blocks, and all these 4 blocks are connected to each other with the help of buses. Let's also add an external drive so that it becomes clear for better understanding. So basically, this is the overview of the entire DMA transfer operation. Now let's see how it actually performs the operation. So firstly, what CPU does is, it programs the DMA controller by setting up its registers. So this is the address, this is the count, these are the control signals. You will know its operation later. So what CPU does is, it contacts the disk controller and instructs it to read the data from the external drive and store this data inside the internal buffer. Here you can see we are using buffer. So why is it necessary to store the data into a buffer? So always remember, buffer is just a temporary storage unit in which we can store the data temporarily. The reason for using a buffer is because the DMA cannot perform its operation unless there is data inside a buffer. Okay. Now the next step is that the DMA controller will request the disk controller to transfer the data which is in the buffer to the memory. So whatever the data that is present in the buffer will get transferred to the memory. So therefore, as how the disk controller was instructed, it will transfer the data into the memory. Once the first set of data is transferred, this controller sends an acknowledgement to the DMA controller stating it that it has finished the job that was assigned to it. Once the DMA gets the acknowledgement, it decreases the count. This is known as byte count. Now the DMA will check if byte count is equals to 0. If it equals to 0, that means there is no more data that has to be sent. So therefore the data transfer ends. If the byte count is not equals to 0, then it will repeat the steps. What are its steps? It's 2, 3, and 4. That is, it will request, it will transfer, and it will send acknowledgement. So this process keeps repeating until the byte count becomes 0. Once the byte count becomes 0, it sends an interrupt to the CPU stating that the data transfer is complete. And then CPU displays a message to the user that the data transfer is complete. So this is it, guys. This is how the data transfer operation or DMA, direct memory access, works. I hope you all
I think that video was really helpful for getting an idea about what you have to. If you have any doubt regarding till now whatever I have covered, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll be moving into the next one. Today we will be having 2 classes. One more will be there, that will be in the afternoon. So even you will also be tired. So there we will teach some simple topic. So what I'm planning is we will continue with the next part of the DMA. So that's all about the DMA's basics working. We'll be coming into few issues related to DMA and how it will be solving it. I will come to this picture itself. So I will try to tell what it is exactly. So see, in this diagram itself, it was mentioning like you are having a system bus which will be common. So you will be having a system bus. So this is the common bus you are having. So through that bus, actually all these components are connected, or all these functional units are connected. So the processor is connected to the main memory through the bus, and even DMA controller is also connected to the main memory. So the question is, if processor as well as the DMA, one of the DMA controller which is connected to the system bus, if both of them wants to use the system bus, then which one will get the system bus? That is the first question. When processor as well as DMA controller wants to use the same system bus, because this is a common shared data or common shared resource. So if both processor as DMA controller wants to use the same system bus, who will be getting the bus? That is the first question. Second question is, processor is anyway don't want to use the system bus, but it is connected, the system bus is connected with multiple DMA controllers. So which DMA controller should get the bus if multiple DMA controllers raise the request for getting the system bus? Means multiple DMA controllers which are connected to the system bus, those all DMA controllers or two DMA controllers in this example, two DMA controller also want to use the system bus at the same time, who will get the system bus? That are the two things we are trying to solve. In the next slide. So we'll
Ma'am, you are not
you can see processor and DMA
Ma'am.
controller how to use the bus in an interwoven fashion to access the memory. So first point is mentioning about
Excuse me, ma'am.
what will happen if a
Ma'am, your screen is not visible,
device as
ma'am.
well as the processor wants to access the bus. Read the statement. DMA devices are
Ma'am.
given higher priority than the processor to access the bus.
Ma'am.
So it means that if a DMA
Excuse me,
device
ma'am.
and processor wants to get the system bus, DMA device will get the system bus than the processor. That was the first issue has resolved. Second one is among different DMA devices, who will get the bus? So its answer
Ma'am.
is among different DMA devices, high priority is given to a high-speed peripherals such as disk
Excuse me,
or
ma'am.
graphic display device. If multiple devices are connected, anyway devices are connected to the DMA controller. So if multiple DMA controller has raised the system bus access, during that time it will be checking like which device the DMA controller is attached with a device, like any input output device will be connected to that, which is out of that which device will be working fastly, that will be checking, and those DMA controller will be getting the preference over the other. So that will be the second case is resolving, like if multiple DMA controllers request for the system bus, the device which are connected to the DMA controller, which one will be working fastly, that will be checking, and that way it will be which device will be having working fastly, that device will get the high priority. So that's the first thing. Second thing is mentioning about uh, the processor originate most memory access cycle. So normally processor was using the system bus, but we know that from the first point that DMA controller will get the bus if it requests. So what will happen? DMA controller are said to be steal the memory access cycle from the bus. First initially it was using by the processor, but whenever a DMA controller is asking for the bus according to the rule 1, DMA controller will have the high priority, so definitely the bus will be given to the DMA controller. So that time the DMA controller can set to be 1 second. Hello. Oh my god. Okay, 1 minute. Thank you for the, I was not even knowing. I think I have completed one slide also. Sorry. I think now it's fine. Even though you have written the message, I didn't see that because I was in presentation mode. I will come back and we'll just discuss the same. So here you see first case is the system bus will be common and processor is connected to the system bus. So what will be happening is, if the processor as well as DMA controller wants to use the same system bus, who will be getting the bus? That will be the first case. So we find out that a DMA controller will be having the higher preference than the processor. That is the first case. And second case is telling about, it is not about processor's involvement. It is two DMA controllers are requesting for the same system bus, who will be getting the system bus. That was the second issue. So in that case, what was the thing I was mentioning is, whether this device or this device which is connected to the DMA controller, I will be checking. In that, which device will be working faster, that DMA controller will be getting the system bus. That was the second point I was mentioning. So now we will be telling about, if you are having a common resource like a system bus and all the DMA controller and processor are using the same system bus for data transfer, which one will be getting, or which device will be getting the system bus? So processor and DMA controller is asking for the same time. According to the rule, DMA controller will get the system bus. If two DMA controllers are requesting for the same system bus, that time it will be checking like which device is connected to this DMA controller, and if the device, this device is faster than the second device, this DMA controller will be holding the bus. Okay, so that was the thing I was trying to tell. Okay, these 2 points I have finished. That was the first point and second point. First point you just read, DMA devices are given the higher priority than the processor, and second point is, among different DMA devices, high priority is given to the high-speed peripherals such as disk or graphic display device. That was the second point. Then the next point what we were trying to tell is, usually by default processor will be holding the bus. So, but whenever a DMA controller is asking for the bus, according to the rule 1, the DMA controller should get the bus. So it was like, DMA controller is said to be steal memory access cycle from the bus, and this process is called as cycle stealing. So this is a technical term, you should study what is meant by cycle stealing. So processor is using the bus, and whenever it was using the system bus, if DMA controller was raising a request for accessing the bus, according to rule 1, it will be getting the bus, and that is called the cycle stealing. And even a block of data together you can transfer from the disk device or input output device to the main memory, and that is called as block mode or burst mode. Block mode or burst mode means multiple set of instruction or a block of data together you can transfer from the input output device to the main memory, or from the main memory to the output device. That's called a block or burst mode. Now we'll be coming into the next part of the discussion. Even that separately also it will ask, explain about DMA bus arbitration circuit. What is the word meaning of arbitrator? It means if some dispute is there, the person will be dissolving that issue. So now itself we were having one issue like a common single system bus will be used by multiple people, and everyone wants to use that same single bus. So the bus arbitration circuit is mentioning like who will be owns the bus, that will be decided by this circuit, whether it is processor or any one of the DMA controller. So who will be owns the bus will be decided by a special set of circuits, and that is called a bus arbitration circuit. Okay, so who will be owns the bus, that particular circuit, or that is called as bus master. For example, in the data transfer, the bus was used by a processor for the data transfer. That time the processor is the bus master. If one of the DMA controller is using the bus at a current point of time, then that time bus master is the DMA controller which was using that bus. So who is using the bus, the common system bus, that at that particular point, that particular device will be the bus master. That is the next one. What is meant by bus master? A device that allowed to initiate the transfer on the bus, initiate transfers on the bus at a given point of time is called as bus master. So that will be varying. So maybe initially the common system bus was used by the processor, that time bus master was processor. But I told like you are having a DMA controller may also get the bus, even that point of time your DMA controller will be the bus master. Now what is meant by bus arbitration circuit is who will owns the bus, or who will be the next bus master will be decided by this circuit. Initially, processor was using, by default, we are having the assumption that the processor is using the system bus. But whenever the processor is using the system bus, then if one more request came, the bus arbitration circuit will be deciding that whether the processor will continue like a bus master or the newly requested device will be getting the bus master. So that will be called as bus arbitration circuit. I will read the statement. What is bus arbitration circuit? The process by which the next device to become the bus master is selected and the bus mastership is transferred to it is called a bus arbitration. The process by which the next device to become the bus master, so the bus mastership will be transferring to the new device, and that process will be done by a certain circuits, and that is called the bus arbitration circuit, and the process is called the bus arbitration. Okay, so two different ways are there, so that's why I was mentioned like separately also this will ask like two different ways you can manage this process. One is called centralized arbitration and second one is called distributed arbitration. So first one is centralized arbitration, means a separate circuit will be provided for doing this operation. What is this operation? Bus arbitration operation. It should decide that who should owns the bus at a particular point of time. So that will be decided by a special circuits or a special set of circuits, that is called the centralized arbitration. In distributed arbitration, all devices which are requesting for the bus are participating in the selection process, and finally one will win the selection process and that will be the bus master. In distributed arbitration, all devices who wants to get the bus are participating in a best selection process, and finally one device will be winning. We will see how it will be, the process will be involving in the distributed arbitration. One device will be winning the process and that device will be acting as the best master. But the centralized arbitration, the centralized means it is some control was there by for someone, so a special circuits was provided in the centralized arbitration, so that will manage who will be the next one. Okay, so we'll be coming into the diagram, and this is the only diagram you should study for the centralized arbitration. So I am just covering centralized arbitration also in today's session. Morning session, afternoon session, we will discuss only about distributed arbitration. Okay, so you just listen the complete next to 2-3 slides, the complete explanation I am giving with respect to the single slide. So please, all of you, please listen this. So what is the thing is, we are having processor and different DMA controllers, all are connected to the same single bus. So the bus arbitration circuit I am just trying to tell what all are the things you should do. So whenever a DMA controller is ready for data transfer, it should check that whether the bus is ready for data, whether the bus is free for the data transfer. So what it is doing, by default we are having the assumption that bus is owned by the processor. So what it should do is, it should send a signal to the processor. It should send a signal to the processor telling that it wants to use the system bus. How it will send the signal to the processor? It is through a signal called bus request signal. BR bar is mentioning like it is a bus request signal. B is bus. In all the explanation, this B is bus. Here, everything is B is bus, and R is representing request signal. So BR bar is mentioning like a bus request signal. When the signal will be active, the BR bar signal will be active. You know that in ADE and all you are studying, like the signal will be active. This is a negative triggered signal. So when the signal will be active when it has the value 0. And what about BBSY bar? Even that signal is also active when it is having the value 0. What about BG signal? That will be active when it has the value 1. You have studied about a negative triggered and positive triggered signals, either in your first semester or second semester, or at least in your AD you have studied. So these bar signals were mentioning like that it will have the value when it is negative, the signal will be active. So what will be the thing will be doing is, whenever a device is ready, it will be sending a bus request signal to the processor. Once the processor has received the bus request signal, it will be sending grand signal back to the device. Processor don't know who has raised the signal because the command line is used for even DMA controller 1 also, DMA controller 2 also. So the command line will be used for best request also, and a command line will be used for best grand also. So how this will be working? This will be looking like a daisy chain fashion. So what is this daisy chain fashion? The best request has received by the processor. Processor will be granting the best by sending a best grand signal to the DMA controller. First BG1 signal will be produced by the processor and it will be sending to DMA controller 1. And DMA controller 1 will check whether it has raised the BR signal, whether it has raised the BR signal or not. If it has not raised the BR signal, then the signal will be moving into the next device. That means BG2 will be sending to the next DMA controller. Then the DMA controller 2 will be checking like whether it has raised the signal BR bar. If it has raised the signal BR bar, then it will be ready for the data transfer, and the signal sending process will be stopping over here. It was not sending to the next DMA controller. For example, in the first case, if the best grand signal was produced by the processor, so BG1 was coming over here, and if the DMA controller 1 itself has raised the BR signal, this BG2 won't be created, because the DMA controller is ready for the data transfer, and this it will be checking for whether the bus is free or not, and this transfer itself is not transfer. This signal itself won't be generated. How this is generated? Because the DMA controller BG2 will generate only if the DMA controller 1 has not raised the signal BR bar. If BR bar has already raised by DMA controller, then BG2 won't be generated, and here itself the signal generation will be stopped. Okay, that's why it is called a daisy chain fashion. And then once it has find out, according to the initial example I was mentioned, like DMA controller 2 has raised the signal, so it came to DMA controller 1. It didn't raise the signal BR bar, so it will be moving to the BG signal will be moving to the best grand signal will be moving to the next DMA controller, and it has reached into DMA controller 2. At that point, it find out that it has already raised the BR signal and it got the grand permission also. Now the data transfer is possible. When the data transfer is possible, it should check like whether the system bus is already using by someone or not. If the bus is already free, it can transfer data transfer. Otherwise, it should wait until the current data transfer should get over. So how it will be checking like whether the common system bus is free or not. For that, you are having another control signal. It is called BBSY. So BBSY is a signal which is telling like best busy signal. Best busy signal is active. It will be checking the best busy signal status. Best busy signal will be active when it has the value 0. It indicates that the common system bus is already busy. When it becomes free, the best busy signal will be getting the value 1. So best busy signal is having the value 1 means the DMA controller 2 can use the system bus for data transfer. Otherwise, the best busy signal should get the value 1. Until that, it should wait for the data transfer. Once again, I will tell, whenever a DMA controller 2 or any device is ready for the data transfer, its own corresponding DMA controller will be raising a signal called best request signal, which will be sending to the processor. Once it has received the signal by the processor, it will be sending a best grand signal to the different DMA controllers. So it will be sending the best grand signal to the first DMA controller, and if the first DMA controller is not raised the best grand signal, it will transfer that best grand signal to the next DMA controller, and that process will be continuing until it find out which device has raised the best request signal. Once the DMA controller has find out that it has raised the best request signal and it got the response from the processor like a bus grand signal. During that time, that corresponding DMA controller should check like whether the system bus is already occupied for with some data transfer or it is already free. How that DMA controller will be checking like whether the system bus is free or not? It will check the status of the BBSY signal. If BBSY signal is having the value 0, it means that the bus is already busy with some other data transfer. So the DMA controller 2 should wait until it gets the value 1. If the DMA controller 2 is checking the value of BBSY signal, if it wants, then the bus is free, it can transfer the data. This is the complete explanation of centralized bus arbitration circuit. Clear? If you have any doubt, you can ask me. We'll be moving into the next slide. Whatever I have explained with respect to this slide has written as a sentence. You can see the first line. Bus arbiter may be the processor or a separate unit. It can connect it to the bus. Normally, the processor is the bus master in the case of centralized bus arbitration circuit, unless it grants the bus membership to one of the DMA controller. DMA controller requests the control of the bus by asserting a bus request line. In response, the processor activates a bus grant line, indicating that the controller may use the bus when it is free. BG1 signal is connected to all DMA controllers in a daisy chain fashion. That's what this is, the daisy chain fashion. Last class we have discussed about it. If you see the video, you are clear. BBSY signal is 0. It indicates that the bus is busy. When BBSY signal becomes 1, then the DMA controller which asserted BR can acquire the control of the bus. Okay, that is about BBSY signal and centralized bus arbitration. I think I can stop over here. Actually, one more signal diagram is there. Okay, that anyway, today afternoon we are having a class. So during that time, I will just mention about this diagram and distributed arbitration. Okay. Anything? Anything you want to tell? Did you clear, or I should explain this again? No issues. Okay, we were discussed about centralized bus arbitration. I won't take much time. Maximum 10 or 15 minutes will take. Okay. When I am tired, you also tired, I know. So we will just wind up with just by discussing the distributed bus arbitration. So this is just mentioning like you are having a processor and a DMA controller. I was mentioning about 3 signals will be there. Bus request signal, BG is the bus grant signal, and BBSY is the bus busy signal. So whenever a device is ready, it is sending a request through the bus request line. So the processor will be granting permission through a bus grant signal. If the device DMA controller 1 has raised the request, it will stop sending the response or sending the grant signal to the next DMA controller, and it will wait until the bus is free. So how it will be doing that the bus is free or not? It will be having a bus BBSY line, that is bus busy line. If bus busy line is having value 0, it indicates that the bus is free. Otherwise bus is busy. If it has value 1, means bus is free, so that the DMA controller 1 can use it. So this is what we have discussed in the morning session. And along with that, now I want to tell about the timing signals. Maybe in your AD class or something, you have studied about the different timing signals, like clock signals, and based on that what will be happening. And also you know that this BBSY and BR will be active when it has value when it has value 0, because both are negative edge signal, and BG1 or bus grand signal will be active when it is positive. I got a feedback from ma'am, you should be more powerful while teaching. What is that meaning of that? Someone has written like that. You mean I should ask questions in every class? Is it something like that? That's the only one negative feedback I got it. So I thought I should just ask you. Anyway, now even if you are answering also, I am not seeing that who is answering. So even the person who has written can also tell. If you want that, I can incorporate, no issue. Okay. I know that with what pain you people are even attending the classes. So only I am not disturbing it. Otherwise, if it is normal class means I won't conduct like this. Okay. So that part is there. Other than that, you come into the signals like BR, BG1, BG2, BBSY. These are the signals we are having. So when these two signals will be active, that when you are having the value 0, and BG1 and BG2 will be active when you are having the value positive. So you need not worry about the signals, whatever was over in the arrows, whatever was showing. Only you should worry about the signals. This is the first signal you are having, and while drawing also you draw only those signals. That is the timing signals what you are having. So it will be like the centralized arbitration circuits signals it will be asking. So first itself the device we are having the assumption then DMA controller 2. Now you look into this diagram. Based on this diagram only this timing signal also I am explaining. So our assumption was DMA controller 2 has raised the request, and it is getting BG1 will be transferring. DMA controller 1 is checking like it whether it is has raised the BR signal. If it is not, then BG2 is raising, and then this device will be finding out whether it has raised the signal. Then it is waiting for the bus to be free, and then the process will be data transfer will be happening. So that is the scenario, and we are trying to represent the same thing through signals. So these all BR1, BG, BBY, all are signals, timing signals, which was associated with your control circuits or control unit. So you see BR1 that was initiated by your DMA controller 2 wants to use the bus. So it has raised the signal BR signal. So this is the lower signal it has. So it means that whenever the DMA controller wants to use the bus, it has raised the BR signal. Raised the BR signal means it will be active when it has the value 0. So this is the a lower value of the signal. So it means that during this period of time the signal is active. Now we will be coming into the next one. Whenever the BR signal has raised, what is the next thing? A processor will be generating BG1. That is the next task. So we will be seeing what is the value of BG1. You can see the signal has activated at this point of time. At this point of time, and your BG1 became active after a little bit of delay, and in between a small delay is there. What is this delay? This delay is indicating like when you start sending the signal BR signal, it should traverse from the DMA controller to the processor, and then the processor should activate BG1. So this delay is indicating like the time the signal BR has taken to transfer from the DMA controller to the processor. So the diagram, you can see the time the signal is transferred from the DMA controller to the processor, how much time it has taken. That time delay has only mentioned in this signal. Okay. So that will be again BG1 is active. So it will be active means it should have the value 1. So it was continuing for 1 clock cycle. Then it is coming into BG2. So what is BG2? So we are having the assumption that device 1 is not, or DMA controller 1 is not raised the BR signal. DMA controller 2 has raised the signal. So definitely BG2 will activate. So BG2 has activated at this point of time, and in between, but BG1 has activated at this point of time. In between again some small delay is there. What is this delay? What is that delay is whenever the processor has generated BG1, this point onwards it is having the active value, but it will be moving from the processor to the DMA controller, and this DMA controller one find out that it is not the signal it wants from the processor, so it will be forwarding to the next DMA controller. So at this point only your BG2 will be active. So the signal has taken little time for transferring from the processor to this point. So that time delay has mentioned in the timing diagram over here. You can see a small delay. At this point you are having the signal BG1 was active, but here the BG2 has active at this particular point of time. So that's all about the time delay. And one, so the now the BG2 is active, so now the BR is already active state and BG2 is also active. So at this point it find out that what is the next thing it should check. It should check like whether the bus is free or not. Already it has raised a signal, it got a grant permission. So after that the device should check whether the bus is free or not. So it will be checking the signal, next signal, that is BBSY. We know that if BBSY is having the low value, that means the bus was using, and by default we are having the assumption that bus will be using by the processor. So the BBSY signal was low in the beginning, so it means the bus was already busy, and here at this point the signal bus became free because it has the value 1. Then immediately it find out that your the grant signal as well as the bus request signal are active. So immediately then the bus will be used by the next bus owner, that is DMA controller 2. Again bus became active, that's why this signal came to the low state. Once again I will tell that much is only the story. So the thing is, you are having a BR signal, BG1 signal, BG2 signal, BBSY signal, and we want to know who will be the best master. Through a signal diagram we are trying to do this. So BR bar is mentioning like whenever the BR signal or one device is ready for sending a request, so DMA controller 2 is asserting a BR signal. So means it will be active when it has the value low. So it was raised the signal and it was in the low state. So first itself that processor will be raising BG1 signal. So BG1 signal was active over here. In between a small delay is there. That delay is indicating like BR signal has taken little time for transferring from DMA controller 2 to the processor. And after that BG2 will be active because the device DMA controller 1 is not asserted the signal BR signal. So it will be moving or forwarding to the next DMA controller, that is BG2. So there it is coming into the active state. So a small delay has occurred in between. So what is that delay is indicating? The delay is indicating like from processor has generated BG1, but it should move from BG1 to the DMA controller, processor to the DMA controller, and the DMA controller has find out that this is not its signal, so it should forward to the next DMA controller. So it is generating BG2. So during that time a small delay has occurred, that was mentioned in the timing diagram again. So once this signal is also in the active state, both BR signal is inactive, BG2 is inactive, then it will be checking whether bus is free by checking the status of BBSY signal. If BBSY signal is having value 0, it indicates that BBSY signal is having value 0, it indicates that the bus is already busy. So in this point it was busy. Whenever it becomes free, it find out that BG2 is active as well as BR is also active. So what it is doing is immediately the bus has given for the DMA controller 2. Now the DMA controller 2 became the bus owner, and this process will be continuing. So this is the signal you can draw, and you need to draw only this timing signals like this way, whatever the signals, and other arrows are just for your explanation. Okay, and majorly you should check for this delay. That is the only point you should remember. The delay you should maintain. Simply from here you should not keep the next signal also into the active state. there should be a delay between this BG1 and BG2 as well as BR to BG1. Now we'll be moving into the distributed arbitration, and next class we'll discuss about these things. This is also important, synchronous and as well as asynchronous data transfer. But I am always telling you DMA controller is very, very important. Even if this question you didn't get also, this is a sure question. Now distributed arbitration, already in the morning itself I told, like distributed arbitration means you will have all the devices, whoever wants to get the best will be participating in the best selection process, and finally one device will be winning it, and that device will get the best. So actually arbitration, I said, who will earn the best, that is what they are checking. In the distributed arbitration, how it is happening, we will see. All devices waiting to use the best share the responsibility of carrying out in the arbitration process. So arbitration process also, in the centralized one, we will be having a separate circuit or processor will be doing the arbitration process. But in distributed arbitration, you don't need to have a separate circuit for that. All the devices together will be deciding that who will be the next one owns the bus. So there you see how it will be doing. Arbitration process does not depend on a central arbiter, hence it is called a distributed arbitration, which has high reliability. So each device is assigned with a 4-bit of ID number. That is the first point you should study. How this process is happening, that's what I am trying to tell. How this process is happening is each device is assigned with a 4-bit ID number. So how the devices will be getting, which device should get the best, that we should find out. So that will be decided through a 4-bit ID number. All devices are connected using 5 lines. 4 bits are for its own ID number it can transfer. 4 arbitration lines used for transmit the ID. And what is the 5th line? And 1 line is used for sending the signal, that is start arbitration. That means that particular device wants to get the best. What we have written in the centralized arbitration is, we were having a signal called, what is the signal name? If a device wants to get the bus, which signal it was raising? Are you guys are there? Which signal the device was raising when it wants to get the bus to the processor? In centralized arbitration, which signal was generating?
BR dial.
Yes, BR bar, that is best request signal was generating. Here the signal name is start arbitration signal. So the signal name is start arbitration signal. Which all are the devices it wants to get the best? Those all devices are raising. First, it is connected with a 5 lines. So in the 5 lines, 4 lines is used to just mentioning like which device want to participate in the best arbitration process. So that which device, how it will be mentioning? It will be mentioning through the address. So every device will be having a 4-bit address. Other than that, one more line is there that will be just mentioning like a best start arbitration signal will be generating. Then to request a to request the bus, a device assert a start arbitration signal and a 4-bit ID number will be placing in the arbitration line. So I was mentioning about the 5 lines. We'll see the diagram. 5 lines and 4 lines will be used for transmitting the device ID, and one will be just mentioning like it wants to participate in the bus arbitration process. The pattern that appears in the arbitration line is the logical OR of all 4-bit device IDs placed in the arbitration lines. I will explain that point later. So this is the diagram what I am planning to tell. So ARB3, ARB0 to 3, that is these 4 lines are representing the ID number of the device. ID of the device which want to participate in the process. So ID of the device will be transferring through a 4-bit number. And one more signal I told, that one more signal is mentioning like that is start arbitration signal. That will be having the low value when the device wants to get the arbitration process, or it get to be involved in the arbitration process. So here the device is there. So whenever the device wants to participate in the distributed arbitration process, it will transfer the four digits of the device address, or 4 digits of the ID of the device, that will be transferring to the circuit, along with one more signal. That signal will be the start arbitration signal. So that will also be sending. And then you can see some other gates. So this is for sending the request. So the ID as well as the start arbitration signal has transferred to the arbitration process, and it is getting some result also. What is this? I will explain you. And you can see even 5 bits will be getting to the device interface also. Now I will be explaining the process. All of you take a notebook and please note down the steps. I didn't include in the slide separately. I will just mention you. I think the slide is enough. So assume that all of you please take a note of it. A and B are two devices which both of them want. Few steps I am just mentioning. A and B are two devices. Both of them want the common bus. So what are the things both the devices will be doing? A will be also sending its own ID and start arbitration signal to the network. And similarly, B will also send its own ID as well as the start arbitration signal. So A and B will be sending these things. Now finally what will be happening is, you can see, so I am having the assumption that A is having the value 5. ID number is 5. So I know that 4 bits I should represent. What is the binary representation of 5? What is the binary representation of 5?
101.
101, but you need to represent in 4 bits. So 0, 1, 0, 1 will be the value representing for A. And B is another device which is also want the common bus. So, and I am assuming that its ID will be 6. So what is its ID? Its ID is 6. What is the value for 6 in binary representation?
0110.
Very good. 0110. So 0110. So this is what both the ID it will be sending into the common distributed arbitration circuit. After that, the operations I am just telling. So these are the inputs you are giving into the arbitration circuit. After that, what is happening is it is generating a code. Next step is it is generating a common code. So what is that code it is generating is, how it is generating a code? I am writing it using mouse, so may not be it is that proper. So generating a code, how it is generating a code is doing the logical OR operation between the values what are present inside the network. So which all are the values are coming? One is 0, 1, 0, 1. So this is the first value, and the 6 is the next value which was generated by B. So it is 0, 1, 1, 0. So these are the two values coming into the network. Now it is doing the logical OR operation. So what is the logical OR truth table? You know that if any 0, 1 combination, 0, 1, the result will be logical OR. The first 1 and 1, 0.
1.
1, 1, 1.
1.
0, 0.
0.
0. If both the inputs are 0, then the truth table is telling like the result will be 0. Otherwise, the value will be 1. If any 1 is present, then the result will be 1. So we are doing the logical OR operation. So the result will be 1, 0, 1 and 0, 1. 1. Okay. 1, 1. Again 1 and 0, 0. You are getting the value 0. So this is the code it was generated in the network. So that is the first step, generating a code by doing the logical OR operation between the values what are present in the network. After that, what is the next thing is, now this generated code as well as the value of the code which was given by each device will be comparing. How that comparison is happening? So this is the code I got it from by doing the logical OR operation. So I should compare A with this code and B with this code. A is having already a code like its ID number 0101, and this is the code I have generated now, that will be 0111. So these are the two codes. One is the code which was generated by the original code of A, and the second one is the code what I have generated doing the logical OR operation. Now what I am doing is, this is with respect to A, the device A, I am comparing the generated code with device code. How that comparison is happening? The comparison is happening like this is the most significant bit, correct? You know that concept, I think. In 100, which is the most significant bit? 1 is the most significant bit and 0 is the least significant bit. In 123, who is the most significant bit? 1 is the most significant bit and 3 is the least significant bit. I think that is that all of you know. So similarly, from the most significant bit onwards, I am comparing both the values. So 0 and 0, if it is both the values are matching, then the same value I am retaining. If a mismatch has found out, then I will be keeping the value as 0 and remaining all bits till up to the least significant bit, it will be keeping the value 0. Once again, I will tell. From the most significant bit onwards, I am comparing the values. So this is 0 and 0. So both are matching, correct? Are you getting it? What I am telling? Yes or no? Please respond.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So both the generated code, that is the generated code is 0111, and the code the device generated address, that is the device specific ID number, both will be comparing. So 0 and 0 is matching, so I can keep what is the matching value. Then again 1 and 1, bit by bit I am comparing. So 1 and 1 is matching, so I can keep the value what is there. Next is 0 and 1. 0 and 1 means a mismatch find out at this point. In the third bit I find out a mismatch, so that I can keep the value 0. Then there is no need for checking the further bits. If I find out a 0 at a particular point of bits, then the remaining all bits till up to the least significant bit, you can keep value 0. Even though here a match was found, I am least bothered. Before that itself, I find out a mismatch has happened, so I am keeping the value 0. This is with respect to A and the generated code. Similarly, you tell me what should be the code for B and generated code I should compare, and what will be the answer I will get. B and generated code. B is, what is the code of B? That is 0. This is the code of B. B is having value 6. So B's value is 0110. And what is the value of the generated code? That is again 0111. Now I should do again the same operation like a comparison. 0 and 0 matching, so I can keep the same value, that is 0. 1 and 1 matching, so I can keep the same value 1. 1 and 1 matching, so I can keep the same value 1. 0 and 1 a mismatch find, so I should keep the value 0. So this is the final answer I got. So A and generated code I compared and I got a result, and similarly B and generated code I compared, I got a result. Now the competition is between these two. This is the code which was getting from device A, and this is the code I got it from device B. Now again I am doing the logical OR operation. Again it is doing the logical OR operation. This is the only thing, how this steps is working is the only thing you should study in the distributed arbitration. Again you should do the logical OR operation to find out who wants this. So who is the this code is, you can write like 0 1 0 0, and this is B, that is 0, 1, 1, 0. Do the logical OR operation. Any position, any way you can start it. 0, 0, result will be 0. 0, 1, result will be 1. And 1, 1, result will be 1. And 0, 0, result will be 0. Now you see which code you got it. If you got the value as 5, then who has won the won this selection process? A is 1. But we got the code as 0110. 0110 is the code of 6 that is pointing to device B. So this is the code of device B. So who wants this game or who owns the bus? That is B owns the bus. So this is the procedure you should follow for finding who is on the bus in the distributed arbitration circuit. This as a sentence you can write it, and with an example you can elaborate it. That is, and along with this diagram, I think you will get to know this is the code it was generated. This is for 5, and this is with respect to the device. This is actually the diagram has taken from the textbook. So this one 0111 is the code it has generated. When I am doing the operation also you got it. 0111 is the code that is generated code after doing the logical OR operation. So that was coming. Why that is coming to the device? Again the comparison operation should do. So with respect to A, the comparison is doing. With respect to B also, with respect to the generating code, the comparison is performing. And again the resultant value, whatever it is getting doing the logical OR operation, that will be giving an ID of any of the device which was connected to this. If multiple devices are connected, so any one device ID you will be getting, that device will be on the bus. So that will be the bus master in the next attempt. Okay, so that's what we were trying to tell. So device A has ID number 5, the same example as a sentence it has written. Nothing more in this. If you didn't understand this part, I will explain again. Are you clear with what is happening? Whether I should explain it again? Yes or no, please tell me.
It's clear, ma'am.
Okay, I should explain. Okay, I will explain. So A and B are the two devices which wants the distributed arbitration circuit. So both of them want the bus. So what they are doing is it's on ID, and a start arbitration signal will be sending into the distributed bus arbitration circuit. So 010 is the code for A. That is our assumption. Any code it will be. So we are having a 4-bit any value you can connect. So it is 010 is the device A code, ID number, and similarly 6 is the ID number of B. So the first operation is it should generate a code. How it is generating a code? Doing the logical OR operation on both the codes which was coming into the arbitration circuit. So 5 and 6 logical OR will be performing. You are getting 0111 is the result. So now the generated code is comparing with the A as well as B. How it is comparing? From most significant bit onwards it is comparing. If the values are matching, the 0 will be retaining. If 1 is matching, the 1 will be retaining. If a mismatch has find out, then we will be keeping the value 0. From that point to the least significant bit, all values will be keeping as 0. And here 0 and 0 is comparing. We are keeping 0 because both are matching. 1 and 1 is comparing. We keeping the same value 1. 1, 1 again comparing. 1 is keeping. And a mismatch find out at the last point. So I kept as 0. Now these are the codes generated after the comparison. Now again these signals will be sending into the arbitration circuit. Again it is doing the logical OR operation. So the logical OR operation is performing on this signals. So it will be getting a value that is the ID number of the particular device, and that particular device will owns the bus in the next attempt. Clear? This is all about our today's class. I didn't taught much. So in the distributed arbitration, what all things you should mention? What is distributed arbitration? How it is working? So in how it is working, you should mention like how the 4-bit ID number as well as the start arbitration signal. And other than that, this diagram and calculation what I have shown here, that with your own example, any value you can give, the same way it will work. So the example, and similarly, one more thing you have to do, that is the example you should write as a sentence. So this is the sentence explanation of the same example, so that you can include in the answer. That's enough. Okay, even here also the code, everything has mentioned precisely. You can just go through it if you didn't understand the process what I have explained over here. Otherwise, according to your understanding what you got it, the same thing in your own ways you can write it in the paper. Clear? And regarding the Viva part, we actually have done Viva for few people, and the remaining people is still there.
About interface circuit, we have discussed about different types of ports. So the ports will be like parallel port as well as serial port, and we were discussed about serial port and parallel port in detail. And while so the first part of the parallel port we have discussed, like the parallel port will be transferring the data n number of bits together at a time. So that is called parallel port. And in serial port, the circuit will be transferring the bits one bit at a time. And then we have discussed about how the keyboard is connected with the processor through the ports, parallel ports. And we were having an encoding and a debouncing circuit. Encoder will be converting your alphabets, whatever you have given in the keyboard. So that will be converted to the corresponding ASCII format, and that will be again converted to the binary format, and the binary format will be transferring to the data in register. And inside the data in register, the data will be stored. Accordingly, SIN flag will be set, and the other process like a processor will be checking the status of the SIN flag. And if SIN flag has set, data in register content will be taken to the processor. So that was the explanation we have given for the connection between the keyboard and processor. And we were knowing that one interface circuit was there for converting the data between the keyboard format to the processor compatible format. Other than that, we know that one more encoder and debouncing circuit is also there. Coming into the parallel port second part, we have discussed about how the output device like printer wants to print the data. Whatever the processor was having, that data it will be keeping in the data out register. And whenever the device is ready for printing the data, so the ideal signal will be active. So if corresponding to the ideal signal is active, automatically your S out flag will be set to 1. So ideal signal will be doing that work. Ideal signal is active means the printer is free. So it will set S out flag 1. So processor will check the status of the S out flag. If S out flag is 1, then automatically whatever the data was present in the data out will be transferring to the printer. So this is what we have discussed in the last class. And coming into, and we were seeing some real-time ports also. What are the different types of ports was existing in the system? If the question is about differentiate between parallel port and serial port, then you have to write about, you have to draw the circuit diagram of that. The circuit diagram is looking like this. So this diagram is with respect to the parallel port, and similarly one more diagram you will have, and that you can draw for the serial port. So this is actually a circuit. So I am suggesting that before writing it for the exam for the first time, you can even draw it once and you can even practice. Okay. So coming into this, you can even see, I will try to explain this first. All of you please listen. So the data in register you are familiar, data out register you are familiar. Other than that, one more register is there. That register is called the data direction register. What is the use of this data direction register is, the same address, this is actually the data line. You can see D0 to D7 is the data line. That means 8 bits at a time through the data lines it can transfer. So our assumption is this side your processor is there, and to this side who will be there? This side your input output device is there. So this is the input output device will be present over here, and the other side you will be having processor. So the data will be transferring. If the input, if this one is the input device, so the data will be taken from the input device. It will be keeping in the data in register that will be transferring through the data. That will be transferring through the data lines. So if the device which was connected to the processor is an input device, the data will be taken and it will be keeping in data in register that will be transferring simultaneously to the simultaneously those 8 bits will be transferring through the data bus. In the same time, you can see this P0 to P7 is the device dependent bus that has arrows in both the direction. You can see that the arrows P0 to P7 is having both the direction. So it means that from P0 to P7, the data, even if it can take the data also, and it can even give the data out to the output device. So there actually the data out register will be coming. So if it is a data out register, that means who owns the data? Processor owns the data, and the printer will be displaying it. So processor should give the data to whom? Processor will be giving the data to the data out register, and data out register will be transferring the data to the P0 to P7. So you know that P0 to P7 the bits are bidirectional, the lines are bidirectional. So even it can take the data to the processor, and it can even put the data from the processor to the output device. And whether it should take the data to the processor or it will be giving the data to the output device, that will be decided by a bit in the data direction register. That is the use of this data direction register. So what is the data direction register? Direction register will also be controlled by the processor. If processor is keeping a one bit as a set, the processor is keeping the data direction bit register bit as set. That means if it has the value 1, then actually processor wants to output the data. If value in the data direction register is 1, so it means that it wants to output the data, that is data out register will be filled. Instead of that, if data direction register is having the value 0, then it means that processor wants to get the value from the output device, from the input device. So during that time, your data in register will be active. That is all about this diagram. So I will just mention what all are the points you have to write. P0 to P7 are the pins which was connected to the input output device, that is bidirectional. So the data even can take to the data in register, or the whatever the data was in there in the data out register can keep through the sent through the P0 to P7 to the output device. And coming into the data in register, if the data direction register is keeping the value 0, it means that it will be acting as the input device. So data direction register is having the value 0, then the data from the keyboard will be taken or from the input device will be taken, and it will be storing in the data in register and transferring to the processor. Instead of that, if data direction register is having value 1, even that will be set by the processor. If having the value 1, then the processor wants to output certain data to the output device. So those data will be available in the data out register that will be transferring to the P0 to P7. Coming into the other blocks, you can see status and control blocks. So status and control blocks are, this is with respect to the parallel communication. So at a time 8 bits will be transferring from, so 8 bits, if we are here, you can see the database is D0 to D7. That means 8 bits total will be there, 0 to 7. So all 8 bits simultaneously will be transferring. So it is a parallel communication. And also while discussing about parallel communication, we were discussed like it is an asynchronous data transfer. So in asynchronous data transfer, you will be having control signals, master ready and slave ready signal. So here instead of master ready and slave ready, it is like ready and accept signal. Ready is representing the master ready, accept is representing the slave ready signal. Other than that, you can see my address that will be specifying which address of the device. So the address will be specified by the processor through this pin. Which device should be connected, that will be decided by the processor to my address pin. And other than that, you can even see here 3 RS0, RS1, RS2. These are 3 bits that will be representing which register the data should keep in the processor. Which register means whether it is, you know that 8 or 16 registers are general purpose registers are there. So in those registers, which register it should keep. So 3 bits are there means 2 raised to 3. That means 8 bits you can, 8 registers will be there. In that, which register will be selected by these bits. Other than that, you are having a control signal, that is read or write signal. And whenever the device wants to raise an interrupt, you will be having an interrupt request line. INTR is interrupt request line. Other than that, C1 and C2 are control signals which was monitoring this complete process. And C2 is bidirectional. You can see C2 is a bidirectional arrow. So whatever I have mentioned, even arrows, whichever I am telling like bidirectional or single directional, and you can see the accept is coming out of the block. Remaining all signals are for the register select. So if you study this diagram, the next diagram is so simple because some modification of the current diagram. So the question is, if the differentiate between parallel port and serial port with the help of circuit diagram, this diagram you have to draw. The textbook will be having some more diagram, but this is the basic diagram. So this you have to study. Okay, I will just go through the statements one by one. Data lines to the IO device are bidirectional. So I was mentioning like P0 to P7 is bidirectional. The data lines P7 through P0 can be used for both input and output. So it means that these lines are bidirectional. I already mentioned like this is connected to the input output device. Coming into the next point. In fact, some lines can be used for input and some can be used for output depending on the pattern present in the, who will be deciding whether this line will be P0 to P7 will be acting as an input line or it will be acting as an output line. Who will be deciding? The value present inside the data direction register. Next point, when the data direction register will work as output device, when the data direction register will be working for the input device. So you can see if DDR is 1, then it will be acting as the output line. So these lines P0 to P7 will be acting as the output line. That means whatever the data present in data out line will be transferring to P0 to P7. Next one, C1 and C2. Coming into C1 and C2, that are status and control signals. C1 and C2 are control the interaction between the interface circuit and the IO device. Now coming into ready and accept signal. What is ready signal? Ready signal is managing by the master ready and accept signal is mentioned like a slave is ready for the data transfer. So it is actually corresponds to the slave ready signal. You can see input signal, my address is just for mentioning the address of the device, and RS0 to RS1, RS2, that are 3 registers select pins. So total 3 bits means, you know that with 3 bits how many registers can be, 3 distinctive, how many distinctive values you can represent. That we have discussed like 0, 0, 0, 3 bits. Next 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0. Like that you can even write from 0 to 7. So total 8 bits are possible. So 8 distinct registers are also you can note down through with the help of these 3 bits. So that was mentioned like a 3 register select lines which will allow up to 8 registers to be selected. So that's all about parallel port. So you can even mention what all are the points. Again I will tell, this arrows should be bidirectional and this C2 should be bidirectional. Register select signals, all the names should be there, which all are the connections it has, like a RS0 to RS2, read write control signal, ready and accept signal, and my address will be specifying the address of the device it wants to communicate. Other than that, you are having a data in register and a data out register. Based on the value of data direction register, if the value is 1, it will be acting as an output device. So these lines will be acting for output device. And if this one will be 0, then it will be directly taking the value to the data in register and acting like an input device. So with respect to these lines, it will be mentioning not like input device or output device. The device will be input device if it is the data will be provided to the processor. If it is displaying, then it will be the output device. But the lines will be taking the data into the processor, and the same set of lines will be acting for the transferring the data to the output device also. So this is all about the parallel port. Coming into the serial port, we know that the data will be transferring 1 bit at a time. So only 1 bit in one data transfer, 1 bit only will be transferring. So this will be comparatively slower compared to the parallel side. Then where this will be using? So you can see serial port is used to connect the processor and IO device that require transmission of data 1 bit at a time, and the serial port communicate 1 bit at a time fashion in the device side and bit parallel fashion in the bus side. So do you know that here the device will be present, input output device, and we will be having the interface as well as the corresponding connections. So after that you will be having the processor bus. So in the last class itself I was mentioned like the interface will be having two part. One part will be connected to the processor through the bus circuit, and other part will be connected through the ports, parallel ports and serial port, and there the data transfer will be happening. So now we were discussing about this part like interface connection with the input output device. So there actually the ports will be there. So we were discussed about the parallel port. Now we'll be coming into serial port. So serial port means 1 bit at a time the data will be taken. But it was mentioned like when the data is putting into the data bus, it will be converting to the parallel bits. That means 1 bit will be taken from here. There will be a shift register is present. So 1 bit will be taken, that will be keeping in the shift register. Second bit will be taken, that again will be keeping in the shift register. So when this shift register is filled with the 8 bits, that 8 bits simultaneously will be sending to the database. That is what it was mentioning. Serial port communicate in a bit serial fashion on the device side. So this is the input output device you are having. So in the device side, 1 bit at a time it will be taking. But in the other side, the data will be taken in a parallel way. Okay. So this is the circuit diagram for that. So you can see the input device is sending the data 1 bit at a time. So input serial bit, it will be coming into the input shift register. You can see this is the shift register. So what is the use of this input shift register is 1 bit at a time only will be accepting. That 1 bit will be storing over here. So the first bit is 1, second bit is 0, third bit is 1, fourth bit is 0, like that. It will be taking the 8 bits at a time. So assume that these are the 8 bits it has. So 1 bit at a time it will be taking and it will be storing in the input shift register. Once the 8 bit has filled, that data will be directly transferring to the data in register. So from the data in register, that 8 bits together will be coming to the data bus. So this is the data bus D0 to D7. So 8 and for sending the data from this point to the input shift register. When it is outputting the data also, the same mechanism. Even the data will be coming to the output device from the data bus to the data out register. So here the processor will be there, processor will be sending the data. So the processor will be sending the data through the data bus and the data will be coming into data out register. But still the data out register to the device, the printer or keyboard printer, whatever be the output device, that data will be again communicated through a serial port. So again, this 8 bits whatever was present in the data bus or data out register, that will be transferring to the output register, output shift register. From the output shift register, only 1 by 8 bits, the same 8 bits it was trying to print. I am sending that 8 bits like 10101110. These are the 8 bits together will be coming from the data out register to this output shift register. But it is a serial port. So first bit will be outputting, then the second bit will be outputting, third bit will be outputting. So like that, the device side, it is taking the data as well as outputting the data by a 1 bit at a time. But when it is coming into the data in register or to the data bus, the altogether the data first 8 bits together will be storing in the input shift register and that will be transferring to data in register, and the same 8 bits simultaneously through will be transferring to the database. Similarly, the same 8 bits will be transferring from the database to the data out register, that will be simultaneously transferring to the output shift register, but from the output shift register to the output device 1 bit at a time it will be transferring. That is all about the serial port. Other than that, coming into the chip and register select circuit, we have already seen these signals. One is address will be specifying, remaining three RS1 and RS2, that are the two signals which will be used for the register select. Then the read control signal, read or write control signal. Ready will be specifying the master ready signal. Accept will be specifying the accept slave ready signal. Then interrupt request line as usual, the previous diagram. So all those things are common. Extra thing is the serial port direction as well as the serial input and serial output directions. Other than that, data in and data out register. Coming into the control and status bus, that will be controlling by the clock signals. So the receiving clock as well as the transmission clock signals are there instead of the control signals C1 and C2. So this is all about the control, the serial port. So coming into the serial port thing, one more point I want to mention is, see, first bit will be coming and it will be storing into the input shift register. Second bit will be coming, it will be storing into the input shift register. Similarly, all the 8 bits will be coming and storing in the input shift register. From that, those 8 bits will be coming into data in register. Those 8 bits will be coming into the data in register. During the same time, again the serial port, so that value, that means 101110. So those value is coming into the data in register. During the same time, again the serial port will be reading the next 8 bits. Next words, first bit will be reading. So this value will be transferring to the data in register, and the second word will also be trying to read, and that will be 11111111. So those value will also be reading at the same time whenever the first data will be transferring to data in register, and then during the same time it will be reading the second word also. Then from the data in register, that word will be coming into the data bus, and similarly the next 8 bits whatever was read by the input shift register will also be coming into the data in register, and the process will be continuing. Okay, so this is all about the serial port. I will just, and that is called 2 words at a time it will be storing. before it is sending into the data bus, it is called a double buffering. What is double buffering? The data will be coming into the input shift register, that will be transferring to the data in register. When it is transferring into the data in register, at the same time, the second word will also be storing into the input shift register. So two words at a time it will be storing, and then the first word will be sending into the data bus. Then this data in register will be empty. Then the second word will be sending into the data bus. So this process will be continuing like this in the serial port. We'll go into the explanation. Input shift register accept input 1 bit at a time from the input device. So that is all about the serial port. Coming into the next one, once all 8 bits are received, once all 8 bits are received, the contents of the input shift register are loaded into the data in register parallelly, and output data of the data out register is loaded into the output shift register parallelly. Bits are shifted out to the output register and sent to the input output device 1 bit at a time. So from the serial port to the input shift register 1 bit at a time the data transfer is happening. Similarly, from the output shift register to the output device also 1 bit data transfer is happening. Coming into the double buffering, what is that term is all about? As soon as the data from the input shift register is loaded in the data in, it can start accepting another 8 bits of data from the input device. So once this content of the data in shift register is loaded, that will be loaded into the data in register. Again, the next 8 bits will be loaded into the input shift register. Input shift register and data in registers are both are used at input, so that the input shift register can start receiving another set of 8 bits from the input device after loading the contents of the data in before the processor reads the content of data in. So that's what I was trying to tell. So the shift register content, whatever was there, and the data in register will be simultaneously available in both the register. After that only it will be start sending into the data in register. So 2 bytes of data will be already available in the registers. That's why it is called a double buffering. This is all about the difference between the parallel port and serial port in the circuit diagram. So the question will also be like that. Explain the difference between serial port and parallel port with the help of circuit diagram. So these two diagrams you have to practice. You draw once. Will give certain assignment related to this. So at least once you will draw that. Okay. Anyway, only first module assignment we had done. The second module is pending. At least once you will draw that if I am giving some assignment related to this. Okay, this is all about today's discussion. Serial interface require fewer wires. So again, few more differences. Serial interface requires fewer wires, and hence serial transmission is convenient for connecting devices that are where the serial communication will be possible or serial port is required. That is the devices which are connected physically distinct location. So there it will be using the serial port. What about the speed of the transmission? Speed of the transmission parallel with will be definitely that will be high. So the speed of transmission of the data over a serial interface is known as bit rate. So the speed of transmission also high with for the parallel port, and serial port definitely it will be slow. In order to accommodate the devices with a range of speeds, a serial interface must be able to use the range of clock signals. So that you can see in the diagram also, we were using the receiving clock and transmission clock instead of the control signals. So it should manage the different speed of the devices which was connected to the interface circuit. Okay, that's all about serial port and parallel port. So the diagrams definitely you have to study. Clear? We'll take the attendance. Okay, 62. If you answer your attendance, 62. 62 present. 63.
Present, ma'am.
64.
Present, ma'am.
65.
Present, ma'am.
66. Absent. 67.
Present, ma'am.
They were waiting for 11:10 maybe. 67. 68. 68 absent. 69.
Present, ma'am.
70.
Present, ma'am.
71.
Present, ma'am.
72.
Present, ma'am.
73. 73. 74.
Present, ma'am.
75.
Present, ma'am.
76. 76 absent. 78.
Present,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
77 present, ma'am.
Sorry, 77. 78.
Present, ma'am.
79. 79 absent. 80.
Present, ma'am.
81.
Present, ma'am.
82.
79 present. She just had network issue.
Okay, okay. 81.
Present, ma'am.
82. 82. 82 absent. If any issues, you can just write your USN. 83.
Present, ma'am.
84.
Present, ma'am.
85.
85 present, ma'am.
84. 83. Okay. 84, 85.
85 present.
83
Okay,
present.
86. Okay. 86. 86 absent. 87.
Present, ma'am.
88.
Present, ma'am.
89.
Present, ma'am.
90.
Present, ma'am.
91. Absent. 92.
Present, ma'am.
93.
Present, ma'am.
94. 94 absent. 95.
Present, ma'am.
96.
Yes, ma'am.
97.
Present, ma'am.
98.
Present, ma'am.
99. 99 absent. 100.
Present, ma'am.
101.
Present, ma'am.
102.
Present, ma'am.
103. 103. 103 absent. 104. 105.
Present, ma'am.
106. 106 absent. 107.
Present, ma'am.
108.
Present, ma'am.
109.
Present, ma'am.
110.
Present, ma'am.
111.
Present, ma'am.
112. 112. 112 absent. 113. 113 absent. 114.
Present, ma'am.
115.
Present, ma'am.
116. 117. 118. 117 percent. 118.
118 present, ma'am.
Okay.
118 present,
190.
ma'am.
190.
Present, ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
120, 120, 121,
Present, ma'am.
122, 122. Okay, absent is 66, 68, 73, 76, 82, 86, 94, 99, 103, 106, 112, 113, 116, 120, 122. If anyone
Ma'am,
present,
122
please.
network issue means
Which one?
122.
122. Okay. Okay, thank you all. Thank you for joining.